kind of to start off, like Kylie said, why we do this. We've been doing this for a while, and the reason I kind of got into professional grooming was I hated my desk job. I would stare out the window and wish I was outside all day long, and I missed Polo so much that I quit my high-paying office job and I followed Will to Aiken, and that's how I started grooming full-time, and it was awesome. We went all over the place and traveled around and everything, and I learned a great deal, had a lot of fun, and like we say throughout our day, this is one of the only jobs where you see your results on a day-to-day basis. How hard you work, how much effort you put in, it shows on the horses, who you're working for. If you're the pro, it shows every single day you see results. Grooms in general have an extreme amount of pride to show up to the field with perfect horses, perfect tack, perfect wraps, everything. And when your player comes off the field and is going on and on about how awesome the horses went and how everything looked, that's huge for a groom. Same thing if you're playing and your groom, you come off the horses and all your horses did awesome just because maybe you exercised them all day, you cleaned them all day. That is a big, big moment of pride for everybody.
And I started in high school playing at Garrison Forest in the arena. When I graduated from Garrison, I went to UVA and played intercollegiate polo there, and started grooming in the summers, and really enjoyed it, and then got to groom and play a little bit, and then I started to get some chances to play internationally in women's tournaments and things like that. Started working for a green horse breeder and trainer, Perk Cannell, out there, and kind of the rest is history. I've worked for Whistle Ace. I've worked for Jillian Johnston's green horse program. Let's see, I've worked for Carlos Galindo. I groomed for him and played a little bit with him. And then I worked for Team USPA for 2 years, managed the string of horses, the donation string of horses there, as well as the young players on the team. And now I am basically doing kind of everything for Gabrielle Crespo between grooming, playing, riding young horses, piloting, kind of a little bit of everything. And like I said, every step of the way since I started, in high school, it's always, for me, been about the horses and how the horses look. Mm-hmm. So I guess with that, we'll go into kind of, what runs through our minds every day and some tips, things that kind of will help you all, hopefully.
Number one thing in polo and in any horse discipline, for anybody that's been with horses all their lives or one day, should be knowing your horses. If you go out to the barn, you always want to know how they look on a day-to-day basis. You check your horses every day with fresh eyes, and that means you don't go out and just glance at them. You want to do a once-over on each horse, checking eyes, legs, coat, feet, how they're walking, if they're trotting, if you notice that they're kind of lethargic, anything like that. You want to be aware of every little thing on your horse. It's almost like if it's your child. You're checking to see if your child is normal that day.
What's normal for one horse isn't going to be normal for another. Not every horse is going to just sit in its stall and sleep all day. Some horses are walkers and they walk around the stall. Some weave, some crib,
some knicker all day.
Yeah, and so knowing what your horse's normal is. Some horses have old injuries, some are going to stock up. Those are all things that, you might not know first day, the first day you meet the horse, but by the end of the week, you should be able to kind of have an idea of what's normal for that horse. So then, when you do see something abnormal, you can react before it becomes a bigger issue. So definitely knowing each horse's individual personality, etc.
Other things to notice when they're turned out or in the stalls is attitude. when you're familiar with your horses, you can literally be aware of any issues that arise based off of if your horse maybe is dropping its head that day or pawing in the stall or maybe is even depressed. Horses can show signs of depression, and that can be a sign of malnutrition or hunger or ulcers or mental issues and things like that.
EPM, Lyme's disease, all those things can kind of be picked up just by your horse's changed behavior.
Or even sore feet or tendon issues, things like that. So those are kind of little things that we notice, and catching those early can save you from huge vet bills, long recovery process, things like that. Turnout horses, you almost want them to be fat, like at a 6 plus, just to make sure that when you do start legging them up, that fat and weight that they're carrying turns into muscle. So think about it, if you're pulling up a horse that's skin and bones out of the pasture, think about the amount of time it's going to take. One, it has to gain weight and then get fit. So it's a whole double process. You're wasting a lot of time, and the horse's health is being compromised.
And every horse is going to carry that weight differently. Some horses are always going to, when they're playing, be a 4, and some are better at a 6. You know, an Argentine court show mare, you probably never want to have a body scale of 4. But, you know, that off the track thoroughbred, who, you know, kind of plays well off a 4 might be too heavy at a 6, and probably will never get past a 6 on turnout. I like to look every day at the horse and try to look at it with fresh eyes. It's really hard. It's something, you know, a skill that comes with time, being able to look at your horse as if you haven't seen it in 6 months. And so then if you start to see the horse is getting a little ribby or a little overweight, you can adjust their diet and exercise accordingly.
Another aspect of knowing your horse is you as the owner, the player, the groom. How is your presence in the barn affecting your horses? An example of this could be, you know, if you're in the barn, you're loud and the horses never get a chance to rest or have any kind of downtime. Is that affecting their playing? Is that affecting their appetite? Is that affecting their attitude on a day-to-day basis? An example is when Will's horses were recovering after the accident, I literally had to make everyone leave, and I put up a sign that says, "Do not disturb," outside the barn. And the horses slept for like 6 hours straight, and it started healing that recovery process. It just sped it up like crazy. So those are the kind of things that you think about. Horses really like routine, quiet, and, you know, respect in that sense. And so if you're in the barn and you're playing loud music, how is that affecting your horses?
And same with your, kind of what Samira touched on, your mood. You need to be aware. Some days I come to the barn and I'm not in a good mood, and if I'm getting on my least favorite green horse of the day, and I'm like, I'm gonna get in a fight with this horse because I'm not in a good mood. You need to realize that about yourself, and if that's the case, don't even bother riding the horse. You know, it's not worth it to have your whatever your mood is for the day have a negative effect on the horses. You know, if you had a fight, leave it at home or whatever, because that does have a major effect.
Routine as well is very important. I know that time and scheduling can be extremely difficult in today's day and age. We're always running around, last minute things and stuff like that. A horse is just like any other animal. They love routine, just like people do better on routine. So figuring out what your routine that you have installed in your barn, in your pastures, in your horse life, is it beneficial to your horses? Are they responding well? Those are things that you need to think about. I mean, if you're showing up in the middle of the day and feeding them one meal and they're not gaining any weight, that might be an issue. Are you showing up early to feed them twice a day? And is that changing anything? Those kind of things. It depends on kind of what you're playing in and all that as well. But you just have to think about your routine and how it is affecting not just you, but your horses as well.
Moving on to kind of other details about how your horse is going. Different bitting, saddle fittings, all those things also have an effect. Kind of after you play a chucker or after you single the horse, you kind of go through a mental checklist, and for most of you it's probably automatic. You don't have to go like A, B, C, but you'll kind of notice the things that are going wrong. But how's the horse playing in general? Obviously, did it play well? Did it not play well? Why? Was it shaking its head? Was it a little strong? Was it heavy? Was the bit too much and it was, wouldn't go forward? Did it not want to stop on its hind end? Did you end up cutting your horse's mouth after you played? Those are all things that kind of, you notice the problem and then you can come up with a solution before it becomes a consistent issue that's not as easy to fix. So kind of after you play, deal with the problem quietly then, and then look for solutions at home. Noticing what your horse's kind of status quo is, and then realizing when they're expressing something different, then you kind of just need to evaluate your program and see what you need to adjust.